Nintendo, Nintendo, Nintendo. What a ride. From savior to enslaver, the big red company. Wide-eyed, feel-good capitalism. I've never seen a company struggle against such odds. The fact that I can emulate every single Nintendo console is both a blessing and a curse. And here we are today. People calling Nintendo greedy, delusional. Moist Critical called Nintendo pathetic, which, prompted me to make this video. Not just to address this out of like some brand loyalty, but it's like a realistic outlook. Like, people are going crazy over this, so I'm just gonna give my 2 cents, right? I mean, Nintendo's many things, but like, compared to its previous gambles, this one seems pretty safe. It's like, it's only going to increase the price of both its games and console, specifically in the Western market, to, shorten the delays of the releases. So these games are going to get, like, more funds faster and like come out faster. And make no mistake, Nintendo learned lessons from the past, and gone are the days of long, expensive budgets. The system was made underpowered as a choice, a decision that has saved many developers from bankruptcy. When you see it on other consoles, you have a laugh, but you never really hear about it that much from Nintendo. Excuse me. Still, people are dragging Sungrad with his response video. I like him. His heart's in the right place. But criticizing the consumer, fellow gaming peers, is the wrong choice. Instead, you should have directed that blame on the paid shield game review websites, most likely paid for by competing game companies. Or more so, blame the countless streamers, critics, hackers, and people who emulate these games without Nintendo seeing a single cent. And make no mistake, when someone live streams an entire Nintendo game to profit while offering nothing other than to act as a glorified commercial, the entire industry is held back. Now, should you pay more for these games because of this, thing? I guess? No. Right? But you still have to, because these people didn't stop. Like, they won't stop streaming games. They won't, because they think of it as, like, as their job, right? They won't stop, like, pirating it, because it's, like, it's free. And, like, maybe you can make some money off it, I guess, right? And then, like, and now you have to pay more. So, paying extra, you gotta pay for, like, basically, not even the real file, like a partial file on top of the disc. Like, so you gotta download it with an internet connection. And most of the games, most importantly, none of these games are graphically impressive. Like, that's a good thing, to be honest, because I have a theory, right? Like, graphics have pushed gameplay back so far, and most games feel like a rental, It's just like, the better a game looks, most likely you get the shorter it is, right? If I spent a day, I could beat almost any game. Like, when you think about it, like, it shouldn't be like that. Like, the game should at least take, a few days, I mean, at least, but like, most of these, like mainstream games are, they're over so fast. Even like some of the better ones, Mario, like, Nintendo is like a master at this though, because they have the power of jealousy. Jealousy is a powerful tool. The eventual release of the primary lineup will eventually, like, change, the gaming, landscape, for lack of a better term, and the gaming community. We're talking about Mario, the next Mario, the Zeldas, the Metroid looks hype. Oh yeah, the entire Nintendo reputation not only solely lies on these titles though, and I have this theory, right? It's like, and I'm gonna get some hate for this, but I have this funny theory that, like, Nintendo is tired of being left out, and they want that third-party market like badly. So I'm thinking like specifically two games: Grand Theft Auto 6 and Marathon. Right? The latter I think will show up because on the Switch 2, it needs an RTX 180. Like it's really well optimized and stuff. Like the graphics aren't bad, but they're not good, you know. But GTA 6. I don't know about that. Like, I don't think so. I think like Nintendo is gonna go out of its way. A graphically like handicapped version, which is like watered down. Which what do you expect them to do? Like Grand Theft Auto is gonna come out. Everyone's gonna be playing it. They're gonna buy it. It's gonna be one of the most like bought games ever, right? And then like within like the first 2 months, they're gonna review it, and then they're gonna talk about the performance. Then they're gonna talk about like aspects of the game, gameplay, storyline, all that stuff. And like Nintendo, what's Nintendo gonna do in the meantime? Is it gonna come out with any games to compete with that? No, not really. I mean, it could in the child market, but like this is a different market, right? So I'm guessing that like Nintendo wants to do this, and it's throwing its weight into its hardware, which is like, when you really think about it, this is like the first time Nintendo has cut back on all the fluff, that they usually put into consoles that like, you know what I mean, like features that they'll make you buy from the initial release, and then you just, okay, I'm just gonna play games with using controllers and stuff, with mobile stuff. So, like it's getting kind of out of hand, because the Nintendo console now is considered a luxury experience. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can't believe I just said that. Alright. And like, you know what, guys? It's not about dog pounding Sunbread. I mean, I was just watching countless YouTube videos, and this is why it took me so long to come up with this particular topic. I wanted to come on Wednesday, Tuesday, and then like all the videos on this one guy. Dude, if he wants to fanboy out for Nintendo, by all means, let him do that. But like, don't hold his feet to the fire and be like, okay, look, it's your fault that the industry thinks it's okay to charge more for these games. We all know whose fault it is. We all know who it is. Like, okay, think about it like this. How many times has a streamer said, like, before even, like, like saying it himself, like, he's ass, or she's ass, and are you gonna play X, Y, Z, right? And then they said, okay, fine, yeah, I'm gonna get it, pre-order it, whatever. And it's this kind of, like, thing where, if you really think about it, from the company's point of view, they want to like you to pay for every single copy of the game, not just like watch it for free, And as insidious as that sounds, when you think about it, like most Nintendo games are based off of their story, their single player. So having people stream it is a net negative. Like you're gonna have people looking at your single player game. Oh, my Metroid game. Oh, my Zelda game. Oh, and then they see everything that there is, and there's no multiplayer, there's no like longevity to the game, and then that's it. Like I don't even know what to say. Like most of the people in games who I like streaming just do it for like the sport. They want to improve themselves more than just like take from the gaming audience and be like, hey, look, I'm playing the game that you like. Come look at my thing. And then they use you as like a number, and then people come in, maybe some people donate, some people And like, I don't really have a problem with that, except now that it's become so mainstream that video game companies will be like, okay, well, where's my bottom line? Where's my, and thinking back, I remember Nintendo specifically said that they started wanting to ask people to pay for, streaming their games, putting content on their YouTube channel. Like, even just the simple thing of having Nintendo music in the game would, like, make them, like, act out. Like, hey, you can't do that, and then you get copyright stripping, or whatever. Right? and I gotta go off script for this because, like, dude, they were just dragging Sungrad, dude. Like, I'm not gonna name the YouTube pages, but you know who you are. Like, god damn it, man. Like, he's just one guy. And here's the thing, right? The thing with him was he came out in defense of all the gaming community initially, right? And everyone's just like, yeah, you're the champion. And like he said that he was part of, game developers, but I think he's just independent. Like, I don't know if he ever worked mainstream, but I don't know. Somebody could correct me. Now, his analysis is that, it's a good thing for the customer, the consumer, to pay more. And I don't think that's the case. I think that it's like, you're going to alienate more people, especially since you have a child, specifically catering towards the younger crowd of people. So you're essentially asking their parents to pay more money, unless like you expect these teenagers to like not buy an Xbox or a PlayStation and like just get a Nintendo, right? I don't really have a problem with that, except in the sense that like there should be an alternative like way to like have these games priced. Like, okay, like hear me out. If you're gonna have a single player game like a Mario game or whatever that's classically single player, there's no right for it to have like an elevated price. But if there's like a live service aspect of it, people are working online to like maintain the server or whatever, then I guess it's worth it. But is it really that much justified? Like, because it's just gonna keep going up from here, right? We're gonna go from like 100 to 120, 140, $150 games, and it's just like they're gonna justify it by saying, yeah, it's the collector's edition, it's all the DLCs and all the DLCs that are planned. Meanwhile, they're cutting the games off and selling you a partial, I guess, product, and then you pay for it afterwards, one way or the other. And yeah, I just checked, PlayStation Online is up. It's like $110, like, 109 just shy of it. And I go, wow. Like, I knew it was gonna happen, but I was like, whatever, man. Like, I'm glad I just, I took a break from the online aspect and just, I just look at games, look at, whatever. Okay, that's just me. But like, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because these companies are doing this not only because of the streamers and hackers and stuff, but also like it's kind of like a game of chicken, if you will, right? Like, think about like all these game companies, all four of them actually. I wouldn't put it by me if Steam and like Valve went this route, but I don't see any evidence of this. But let's just assume that there's these four cars heading towards each other headfirst, right? Like Xbox, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and then the PC one, right? And they want to see how much they can charge their consumer before they, say, okay, I'm gonna go to another product, right? And when you think about it like this, like, think about how like ubiquitous these products are, like Xbox One X and PS5. Yeah, you could argue one's more powerful than the other, but they basically run, the same games and stuff, right? So what I'm thinking is, maybe, just maybe, like, there's a kind of, I guess, allegiance. And the idea of them competing with each other is like a kind of commercial, play, a staged act. you know, you have to endure and just deal with, like, you know, like, yeah, your prices are going up, and I don't know how to feel about that other than disappointment and, like, a realization that, yeah, the prices of games are going up, but then again, there are so many more games now, this generation, that have ever existed. And the reason why I don't care too much about most games going up in price, because you know, like Grand Theft Auto 6 is gonna come out, it's gonna be as expensive, or if anything at all, they're going to, like, you know, not like want to like charge the most for it. You know? Just, okay, we'll give you single player, you know, 50, $60, reasonable, right? So, and then they're like, hey, where's the multiplayer? Well, the multiplayer is only like $30 or $40. That's not so bad. Meanwhile, they're like, you know, probably having like a deal with like all the console makers to, you know, make the online. Like, think about it like this. Imagine if you just cared about Grand Theft Auto 6 online, right? And then what you would need to do is pay for it for like, I don't know, $20, $30, which would be cheap, but obviously you need the subscription to the console, you know, online service to use it. So that's the deal. And I kind of felt that that was the case with Grand Theft Auto 5 and Sony. It's just like, oh, you get all this extra stuff for buying games, and yeah, there you go. Uh, I don't know how to feel about like the whole cross like gaming market now, because when you really think about it, it's like a shared like scheme to like get the money out of the consumer's pocket, and the eventual like cancellation of like free games, because to my knowledge you don't pay on Steam, right? But you know, there is the likelihood that if you play on PC, there is, or most likely will be, like an eventual like catching of viruses, getting hacked. And I used to think it was just like, you know, these kids who like, you know, wanted to like prove something or like steal your money or whatever, right? Like, you ever stop and like ask yourself, what if they wanted, right, like these big companies, for people to consolidate like into these gaming services, subscription services, like if you really think about it, getting a CD key or like, you know, signing up for like Battle.net or any of these like online services when you're playing games without paying a subscription, mind you, right, would be like the first step where they like collect your information, your data, and then they like, you know, coincide with like, okay, we can do this, we can release our DLC and like, you know, expansion packs, and do all this like, you know, smoke and mirrors. And I really think that Nintendo is possibly gonna do something along those lines as well, where they're like, okay, check out our game, our Mario, or Go-Kart, or like whatever, right? And it's just gonna be that kind of feeling where you're always missing out unless you have that Nintendo. They even have the button. I find that like kind of funny. It's just like, I'm glad I made this like a 39-minute long video, so I can just like talk over about like, you know, stuff that usually would just like slip out of my mind. But like, I find it funny that like there's a button dedicated specifically to like talk to people online, right? Whereas like that in and of itself seems kind of basic. Like, yeah, maybe I can't play games online, but talking to people online seems, if I have a microphone, right, I can just do it. So why do I need to pay for it, right? And what I think though will happen is if we are like at threat, like at a big threat to become hyper commercialized, chances are like the Steam Deck 2 and the PC market will save us on the fundamental basis that as long as we don't get too crazy, you know, no firewalls, we watch what we do or where we, you know, serve, what mods we download, we can be safe, but, you know, I have a theory. Okay, so here's where I got this theory from, right? Like, long ago, there was a game, it wasn't that long ago, Titanfall, right? And it was made by the ex-Treyarch members, and what they did was they want to make a game with robots in the future, and, you know, that kind of thing. So they made it, and it was such, like, so innovative, such a great hit, despite the fact that it was a console launch release, had like online only aspect. It had its problems, but the game itself, at least from what the fans said, it was amazing. Now fast forward, and they came out with the sequel, and it wasn't locked on the console, thankfully, but at the same time, there was this weird thing, and I swear it was so scary because I wanted to try it, and then I heard, I'm like, wait, what? So the problem was people were getting their hard drives or their game file or whatever, like, wiped out, and just like breaking their system, like just from playing the game. So would I put it by me that actual people, Treyarch staff, ex-Treyarch staff, whatever, like, who had a grudge against, you know, this company, now working for EA, against, you know, Activision and stuff, want to sabotage it, you know? And, like, to that, I say, well, maybe, right? Maybe they would. Because, if you really think about it, like, that game was so much, like, impersonated by not only Call of Duty, but so many other shooters and, like, those types of games, like Ghost Runner, like, you know what I mean, like, the whole running off the wall, running off of like, you know, the parkour and stuff like that, like, Mirror's Edge had that, like, so many games copied it, because it was so good. Like, so you could imagine, like, that kind of, like, jealousy and anger and realization that, you know, you were with us, you made us, like, millions of dollars, right? And you wanted to break away and make your own game company and do your own thing, while, like, you know, taking all our tools, all the money we've made together, you know, like, it's bad blood, basically. I wouldn't put it by me, not for a second. Now, would this happen in the case of all these console makers against PC, the PC market? Oh yeah, I'm worried about that. I'm worried that, like, maybe I'm naive to this, because I'm not really a PC gamer, because I just, like, render on the PC, but I'm having a funny feeling that, like, okay, so you know how, like, Monster Hunter Wilds, right? And I'm not really blaming the developer on this, but, like, how the drivers and all that stuff, like, didn't, like, render the game properly, and then it got an 8 out of 10. Don't believe IGN, by the way, but it, like, suffice to say, it did get an 8 out of 10 from IGN, you know, and the chief reason that they, you know, said was, oh, it didn't render properly, didn't run well, didn't blah blah blah, right? And, like, yeah, if your PC specifically, you know, did not run it well, and you couldn't get somebody else in your office, you know, with a better PC or, you know, different configuration to get it to run, I guess you could give it an 8 out of 10, like if it was in a vacuum, but like your job isn't just IGN. Your job is like to review it on every single console, right? So Xbox, PS5, you know what I mean? Like, why was not like considered, right? Like my gaming experience, where the graphics were amazing, where the gameplay was amazing, and like, yeah, it wasn't like native 60 frames a second. It like doesn't have like the fidelity of like ultra ray tracing. Like I don't have a PlayStation Plus, you know, PlayStation Pro, sorry, right? So I think that like maybe there's like a cabal of like, you know, developers plus like manufacturers and 3D card developers to like work together to make, you know, consoles the most profitable like aspect and like, you know, device on the market. And like obviously PC is gonna have its like, you know, benefits, right? But I find that like we're gonna keep seeing this. We're gonna keep seeing like GTA 6 is gonna have poor PC optimization, like, you know, like, and it's just gonna be the norm. Like no matter how good your PC is, how much RAM you have, what your video card is, how like recent your video card is, right? Actually, I want to talk about that, but before I like go on that off on that tangent, right? Like I would think that like because it's so ubiquitous, how like poor the PC performance is, like it is safe to assume that there is a bit of console bias, right? Now, what I want to get into depth with as to why games have sort of like visually stagnated was what is inside the new 3D cards, right? So apparently there's less transistors. Sorry, I've been talking for like forever. There's less transistors. There's less, you know, magic in the box, and they're leveraging AI. They're leveraging, you know, using the next thing, the chips, you know, the frame generation, if you will, right? DLSS. Oh, I forget what the other one's called. I mean, to me, because I don't know, I'm always watching it on YouTube. I don't have a like one of these devices myself to like, you know, make an example, and I don't know. Like I think it's just through the software, but I don't know if like a 30 series does frame gen. So from what I can tell, the problem with this is it ruins latency. So unless the game is made with it from the ground up, it's gonna have like, you know, input lag, you know, control issues, right? I don't know what to say about that other than like the unfortunate reality is we've hit the ceiling. Like we can go higher in the resolution, we can go to 8K, 6K, you know, we can increase the texture memory and make the objects look more detailed, reflective, you know. I don't know, I've seen in like Alan Wake 2 that the ray tracing on the shadows are so, like it's so sharp, it's so like to the point where it's almost photorealistic, right? So I'm pretty sure, like beyond getting like a little bit more, I don't know what to say, like pores and stubble, like we're not going to be going any further. And I think the reason why is because these 3D cards aren't as powerful, at least computational wise, than the 40 series. So the 40 series is more powerful than the 50 series, but the 50 series has frame gen. So on, like it's this weird magic that doesn't actually make the industry go forward. It's just a shortcut, and I have a funny feeling the reason why it's implemented, and that is because when you're making these games, especially in 4K, like the size of the texture memory gets, increased, you know, naturally, right? So what a lot of developers started doing was upscaling. Well, this isn't anything new. And I'm probably late to the game because, I just got into like next gen gaming and like, I haven't I don't really pay attention to it and I assumed like everybody was making the same mistakes as the Xbox release titles. Like I remember Gears of War, it was like 100 something gigs. It was like ridiculous size. It was so much, right? So not only have they started upscaling, but they've also realized that wait a minute, we didn't really need to change that much from our last gen. We could have just, upscaled from like, the stuff that we developed previously. And you're seeing like a lot of titles, a lot of FromSoft titles, and they're just like, they look pretty much like, the generation before, right? So, what I think is going to happen is, I hope that they're going to go for particles and like, weather effects and wind and physics and put more emphasis onto that, because I think we've seen pretty much everything that we can see with textures and like, lighting, and it just doesn't dazzle me anymore. Like, I think it was maybe 2, 3 years ago when we started getting graphics that were pretty much on par with like CGI that you'd see in movies. So, like the excitement is gone. Like it was there, and now it's like, yeah. But I don't know about frame gen all too much. But if it can be used to like supplement pathfinding, so let's say you have like a castle and it's full of like soldiers and it's like a siege, right? So you have to get the archers, they gotta go one place and like whatever. Like I'm pretty sure if we're just talking about images, right? And the copying of images, let's say like how you have soldiers or ants, right? Like, you form columns and lines, and let's say the person in the back doesn't necessarily know what's going on and stuff, but they can just follow along. Like, and that's the idea of frame gen of AI. Of what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to like basically play copycat and then like learn as it goes. So I'm guessing it's kind of like that, you know, kind of like this. New approach to like, like gaming as a whole, because I think that like the competence of game developers has dwindled. Like I don't know if there's that many good game developers left, and even if they are good, like I don't know if they're as good as I remember them, or the whole rose tinted glasses syndrome, right? When you have the whole idea that, maybe the games that you liked or you heard all this praise about wasn't as good as you thought it was. And so you move on with your life and you're just like, yeah, I grew out of gaming, or I don't like do this anymore, I don't do that. And I think the reason why this is the case is that as people get older and like especially like newer games aren't getting appreciated, like I would argue that like the ROI of gaming was always like seen as like skeptically, like basic, like, okay, we're gonna make a game, it's gonna cost us this amount of millions of dollars to make, advertise, develop, and then like release. But then, all things considered, right? By the time all like the advertisement like costs are like calculated and stuff, most companies run in the red, right? And I think that's why Nintendo is taking this like approach where they don't want to make these games these graphically like superior, you know, showcases. Even though I did comment and like suggest that Nintendo's console is a luxury console, I'm just thinking it's a luxury console for them, you know? Like, for Nintendo, this is probably the furthest that they're gonna push it. Because, if you think about it, Nintendo has more to gain, and any company, to be fair, from developing software at this point, right? Like, would it be so difficult, or, you know, out of the ordinary for Nintendo to release games on PC, or Xbox, or PlayStation? Yeah. But, like, it has to fix the whole aspect of, like, emulation, and hacking, and all that stuff, so it has to come out with its own peripheral, and, you know, the little memory card, and the stuff that it has can make it do what it can, I guess. Like, I don't understand though, like everybody's dogpiling Nintendo, because when you really think about it, like they're also scalpers as well, right? And then the marked up price in North America is to basically cap that. I don't think it's just North America, I think it's just like the global market at large, and they just charge, you know, locally, just the basic amount, right? But also the fake reviewer gaming websites, because I think it might be a reaction to Monster Hunter. I know that sounds crazy. Now hear me out. Monster Hunter probably took 2-3 years to develop at the very least, if not more, right? Now imagine getting an 8 in a North American like major publication, right? Like it's probably what is known as the point of no return, right? So like if these like private non-Japanese companies, you know, with certain biases are like going after, you know, subtly if anything, like through subterfuge, right? Like they're gonna have to like protect themselves, and like even Sony's doing it. And then like you even have like YouTubers who are getting paid to play certain games, like let's say Assassin's Creed Shadows, right? And like look, if you want to play this game, or if it interests you, that's fair. But if people are getting paid to play this game, is it really that good? Like think about it. I don't know, man. Like that then in and of itself says not only is the gaming, you know, community and market like terrible, but it's also like, you know, very untrustworthy. So like to sum this up and like end it off on a high note, I just want everybody to leave Sungrad alone. He's not the enemy. It's the people. It's everything around him. It's all the things that are out of his and mine and your control, and it's forcing these companies to do that. But you know, that's where we're at right now. All right, take it easy. Thanks for watching my review.